What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So we're starting an exciting time here on this channel. We're going to be putting out all of our TBC content over the next 4 or 5 months, as well as some normal news updates and things like that going on with MOP, with Classic Anniversary, with Hardcore, whatever it is. But our main focus is I have a massive list of over 50 TBC videos that I want to get out by the time that the Burning Crusade launches. So that's what we're starting now, and we're starting off with the Do You Want to Play series, basically where we kind of dive in a little bit, give a good overview of every class, moving from vanilla up into TBC and, what changes for them, briefly touch on how they perform in Raid and PvP, all that good stuff. And today we're going to be looking at the Druid. So let me pull up my notes here. Chapter 1 is going to be what changes from vanilla to TBC, right? So there's some massive upgrades across the board for the Druid class, going from vanilla into TBC. The most notable thing is going to be that your forms now scale with gear, meaning that Feral actually benefits from weapons, AP, armor, all that good stuff in a very big way, right? You have Dire Bear form, which is, a real tank now in the Burning Crusade. It has a base threat modifier, huge armor, and a massive health pool, arguably one of the best tanks in TBC. We've got the addition of Mangle coming for Cat and Bear form, which provides you with some core damage, threat, and all that good stuff. We have Life Bloom, Swift Mend, and Tree of Life for our Resto Druids. So Resto Druids become an absolute meta healer. If you are anyone who has done Arena in TBC before, you understand that Resto Druids are probably the best healers in PvP, and they're absolutely top tier in Raid as well. We also get the addition of Cyclone, right? Cyclone is a powerful PvP CC ability. It's not dispellable at all. Cyclone is absolutely broken when it comes to Arena. So all my Druid lovers out there, I'm sure you're excited about that. We have Travel Form now being usable indoors in Arenas and in BGs, which is absolutely massive. Think about Arena, think about BGs. You can now jump into Cheetah Form and just fly around even if you're indoors. It's amazing. So Druids now bring absolute Raid utility, right? With Innervate, Battle Res, Fairy Fire, Mark of the Wild. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Restoration, right? Let's talk about the PvE healing, the Raid healing side of Resto Druids. We have Life Bloom and Swiftmen, like I was talking about before, which are strong tank and Raid heals. We have Tree of Life, which is basically a healing aura plus giving some serious mana efficiency. We have the fact that Druids have all this utility makes them great in long fights, right? Your hots stack up. If you have a bunch of Resto Druids in your raid, it's very, very hard for people to die just because of how strong they are. Now, if we look at more of the PvP healing side of Resto Druids, they are absolutely, like I said before, the best arena healer, especially at launch. Later on down the line, it changes a little bit, but for the most part, for all of TBC, Resto Druids are absolutely top tier healers. You have all your hots are instant cast. You have that Cyclone, that's incredible CC that you get from that, plus the mobility of being able to jump in and out of Travel Form. It's really quite frustrating to play against if you experience this in the last version of TBC that we played. They're incredibly strong in 2s and in 3s, and they pair really well with Rogues, Warriors, and Warlocks. So for a summary there, we have that they're very mobile, they're very durable, they're a powerful healer in both PvE and PvP, and Tree Form restricts some spell options, but it's not that big of an issue because the healing aura and the mana efficiency benefit that you get from Tree Form is fantastic. So now let's move on down. On my next topic here on the list, I have Feral Tanks. So let's talk a little bit about Feral Tanks, right? Let's talk about the PvE tanking side of being a Bear Druid. We have Mangle now in Bear form, which just gives you an incredible amount of threat. We have Swipe for AoE tanking. You're just basically swiping mobs, pulling threat from everything. You have great armor, health, and attack power scaling now, which is incredible for our Feral Tanks. The highest health pool out of every tank in TBC. Feral tanks in TBC reach astronomical numbers in terms of health. They have really smooth threat control in dungeons and in 10-mans, and they're really, really good in Karazhan, Serpent Shrine Cavern, Zulaman, and pretty much all of the raids going forward. They're really, really solid. They're a massive step up from vanilla bear tanking. Like, bears can tank in vanilla, But when it comes to TBC, feral tanks are like an absolute must-have. I think they're amazing. Now, the drawbacks are they have no parry, no block, and no magic mitigation, right? They can't mitigate any spell damage. And then they have a little bit of a very limited defensive cooldown pool, but it's not that big of a deal because of the fact that they have such high armor, health, and attack power. Now, for utility, we do continue to have Innervate. We have Battle Res, Mark of the Wild, which equals great raid value. They can off-tank or main tank, depending on what content you're doing, right? So in summary, they're an excellent dungeon tank, a really solid raid tank. They're easy to gear and very, very durable. If you're someone who wants to try out tanking for the first time and you're a Druid player going into TBC, this is going to be a great time to give it a shot. Next on the list here, we have Feral DPS, right? Our cat druids. So let's start off by talking about the PvE DPS side of Ferals. We have Mangle for cat form, right? Which buffs all of your bleeds. And for someone who plays a Feral druid, you know that most of your damage comes from maintaining your bleeds. You have the Shred rotation, which has pretty decent scaling. So you're going to be using Shred as a main part of your rotation. You have Leader of the Pack, which is a party-wide crit buff. So you're going to buff the hell out of your melee group. You're just infinitely better than vanilla cats. You're still not top tier DPS as a feral DPS, but you are a lot better than you were in vanilla. It's extremely viable, and if you want to play it, definitely give it a shot. Now, as for PvP for our feral cats, they obviously have the stealth-based playstyle like a rogue and very similar to vanilla. They have an incredible opener with Pounce and Shred into a Cyclone on, on the healer or whatever, or on the DPS if you're on the healer. They have really decent burst, some good off-healing, and incredible utility as druids bring to the table, right? They feel like a hybrid between like a rogue mixed with a little bit of a vanilla druid, right? So you're now a rogue that can do damage, you can CC with Cyclone, and you can throw some off-heals, which is great. They are incredibly viable in both PvE and PvP. And like I said, they're not top DPS, but very fun, flexible, they bring great utility. There's no reason to not take a feral DPS druid to your raids. So, in summary, they're viable, like I said, in both PvE and PvP, and their energy management is a little bit tricky, but once you get it down, they're really a lot of fun to play. I actually personally played a Feral Druid in the last version of TBC. I played a lot of different things, like 6 classes at 70. And Feral Druid was amazing. I started out as Cat, and then I switched to tanking, and I was having an absolute blast tanking ZA runs on my Druid. So next up on the list, I'm sure there's a lot of you waiting for this part. We're going to talk about balanced druids, our boomkins, right? Let's start off with the PvE DPS side of this. You have Moonkin Aura, which gives your casters a crit. It's a party-wide buff. You have Improved Fairy Fire, which gives your melee a hit bonus, which is great. You bring Innervate, Battle Res. Your damage is fairly average, but your utility is very high to make up for that. So, like I was talking about the cat druids, there's no real reason to not bring a boomkin, right? They're perfect in caster-heavy raid comps. Every group of casters, your arcane mages, your warlocks, your elemental shamans, you're going to want a boomkin in that group because they just bring so much to the table. As for PvP, though, they're a pretty tanky caster. They have high armor in Moonkin form. They have Starfire and Cyclone combos, which are insane for incredible burst and then jumping off and CCing. They're not as bursty as some of the other casters, right, like Mage, but they are super annoying to deal with, and they're really good in 3s comps with Warlocks, Mages, and Priests. Now, the drawbacks for Boomkins, right, and I'm sure you guys already know this, their mana issues early on are horrible. They're always It's a nightmare to deal with, but as we progress and as you scale with better gear, higher item level gear, each tier, you start to have less and less mana issues, which is great. They have really long cast times, which can make it a little bit boring to play, in my opinion. If you're, a balanced druid lover, I know you're going to argue with me on that, but it's never really been my spec, but you can play it in TBC, right? And your mobility is kind of limited because you want to be in Moonkin form and you're going to swap to travel form. Keep in mind, you have mana issues, switching all these forms constantly. You run out of mana, you know the whole deal, yada, yada. But in summary, they are a pretty good support DPS hybrid. They're highly valuable in raids because of the utility and buffs that they bring. Buffing your melee group's hit, buffing your caster group's crit is incredible. And they're a fun PvP caster with some real staying power. You know what I mean? You can play it. They kind of stand their ground and just blast someone down, and you could cyclone people for CC and all that good stuff. If you're good at it, they are annoying to deal with. But as for someone, maybe if you've never PvP'd before as Balance, I wouldn't suggest this spec to learn with in Arena. It's going to be kind of hard, you know, to get on board with it. It's not that easy to play. You'll have a much easier time playing Feral Druid in Arena. But chapter 6 here on my list, I have, should you play Druid, right? Druid is the ultimate hybrid. You can tank, heal, DPS, PvP. You get flight form at 68, which is huge quality of life for Druids. You have the best mobility and utility in the game. Every spec for Druids is now viable in TBC. There's no more meme specs, and they feel absolutely great in small groups, arenas, and raid teams, depending on the spec that you're playing, right? Druids are perfect for players who like switching roles and specs often, and keep in mind, moving into TBC, we now have dual talent specialization, so playing a hybrid is going to be a lot more fun. You could be tanking raids and then switch your spec to, you know, a cat DPS spec, PvP spec for arenas, and vice versa, right? You can kind of do whatever you want. We didn't have dual talents back in the last version of TBC that we played, so I think it's going to make playing hybrids, especially Druid, a lot more fun now. Or maybe you want to heal raids and you want to play cat in arena, or maybe you want to play cat in raids and you want to heal in arena. You can do whatever you want now. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I really do hope that this little overview helped you guys out. I'm making these as an entire series. We're going to do every single class. Don't worry. Every week we'll put out at least one of these videos in this series leading up into TBC to help you guys decide what you want to play, give you a brief overview of the class if you never played TBC, or if you did and you just wanted a memory refresher. So if you enjoyed it, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're excited for the Burning Crusade Classic just as much as I am, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, and come follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hammerdance. We stream on there Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We don't stream every single night, but especially as we get closer and closer to TBC, we'll be live a lot more, guys. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.